Mm, mm. And if we switch to okay, since we have another 4 minutes until we officially start, let's take that time and go a little bit over what we discussed last week. So, if you recall, last week we were discussing the sayings of Rabban Gamaliel, who we said has his saying was "Aseh lecha v'istalek min hasafek ve'al tarbe le'aser umadot." Right. So we talk about the importance of no guesswork. Okay.
In giving tithes.
Yes. Right. To do everything, to be as exact as you can.
Yeah.
And that's what we were talking about last week. And this week, we'll talk about the sayings of his son. Sorry. But beforehand, since we now have another 2 minutes, let's talk a little bit about one of the sources we brought is a Midrash Shmuel, and since we have a few more minutes until we officially start, let's go over the biography of the Midrash Shmuel. Okay, so the Midrash Shmuel is a book written by Rabbi Shmuel ben Yitzchak di Oziwa. Trying to find a little more information about him just so I don't be mistaken. Okay, so Rabbi Shmuel di Ozida was a rabbi who lived at the end of the 16th century in Tzfat. So as you might know, the actual, I'll say, it's not really modern, say towards the modern age, the first settlement after the exile and the burning of the Second Temple was in Tzfat, which is interesting to note. And I read this in a book written by Nathanael Linson. Tzfat is in the area that belonged to which tribe?
Yes.
Yeah, you can guess.
In the north.
What? It's in the north, yes.
Mm-hmm.
What's that? No, what tribe?
People from Ephraim, the tribe of Ephraim.
Of?
Ephraim.
No. It's a little further north than the land of Ephraim. Let's think about who would be like the first. Who would be quick? No. Naphtali. Naphtali, right? When we say Naphtali Ayalash Shlucha, so according at least to some of the, according to Rashi, actually, when he's saying that, he say it's because in his land is not only Tzfat, which is high up on the mountain, but also the Bikat Genosar, which is next to what's modern, well, actually not modern day, but what it's next to Tveria, and that piece of land is gets very very hot and very very rich in water, and that's why fruits there are very quick to ripen. Okay, that's Rashi's commentary on that saying.
He
Okay.
said with olive trees.
No, that was a share,
That was a
more
share.
than a share. Okay, he was just described as a gazelle. Okay, so quick,
Okay, yeah.
and that's what Rashi says there. And according to Nathaniel Ellinson's book, what he says is that also, you see that he's quick to be the first one to return, meaning in the part of land that belonged to Naphtali, were the first Jews to return back to Israel after the destruction of the Second Temple. Just an interesting thing to note. Okay, and as part of that, they established a community in Tzfat um, that grew, and then from there we have a lot of Kabbalistic things, including the song we sing every Erev Shabbos was also written in Tzfat around those years. Um, if you've heard of the Ari, he was also very active there, um, and yeah, a lot of big rabbis, and the Midrash Shmuel was around that time, um, and now we can start um, our week's Mishnah. So we said yes.
We have Sefat and we have Efrat. These are two different laws.
Tzfat and Efrat, yes, they're two different places. Um, Efrat nowadays is a little south of Jerusalem. Okay, um, and when used in the Tanakh, the meaning Efrat was either to describe, or Ephrati was either to describe someone from Shevet Ephraim, or that he had like a special status of some sort. So there are different instances um, where they're used in one of those particular ways. Um, but yes, Tzfat and Efrat are not.
So the fruits will mature fast.
What?
The fruits from Sefat, do they
No. So when Rashi says the places are mature fast, he's not talking about Tzfat itself.
Yeah.
He's talking about the valley underneath Tzfat, the one next to the Sea of Galilee. That's where Bikat Genosar is. Also, that's the name of that area of land today. There's even a kibbutz called Kibbutz Genosar sitting there, and really it has that unique combination of a lot of water flowing down from the hills of Meron, which is one of the highest mountains in Israel. It's the second highest after the Hermon. It gets to an elevation of around 1,200 meters. Okay, so so that's not too high, compared to Kenyan standards, but in Israel that's considered high, and um, and part of the water that falls on the hilltops there finds its way down into the Sea of Galilee. So it has that unique combination of one hand a lot of water, but because it's low down, it's 200 about minus 200 below sea level. Um, so it gets pretty hot, and also so that unique combination of on the one side heat and a lot of water makes the fruit there really grow fast, and also um, even in modern days they grow there, I'd say, like the more tropical fruits and stuff that need a little more heat, and also even then it does ripen fast. Like it is true till this day that area of land is great for agriculture. And that's why you also find not a small amount of kibbutzim in that area. Um,
Did Rashi travel to this area?
Hmm?
Did Rashi travel to this area? Because it's from France, right?
yes, no, Rashi, I don't think traveled himself. He sure did know a lot of geography. Um, okay, but we're not here to discuss Rashi. We're here to discuss the saying of Shimon Bno, which is how this Mishnah starts. Does anyone else want to read the Mishnah?
So, Sheet Avot, chapter 1, Mishnah 17, the Mishnah. Shimon, his son of Rabbi Gamliel, says, "All my days I have grown up in the sages, and I have found nothing better for the body than silence. And the study is not the essence, but rather the action. And whoever increases words brings about sin."
Okay, so if we are to sum this up in two words, what is Shimon, the son of Rabban Gamliel, saying? Rabban Shimon, and according to the Kehati, he's called Shimon, his son, in this case, and not Rabban Shimon, because he was saying this even before, or this saying was said before he got the title of Rabban, meaning when he was still young. Um, what is he saying? If we have to sum it up in two words,
Avoid much talking.
that's more than two words.
Avoid talking.
Don't talk.
Right? That's what he's saying. Basically, he's saying, shut up.
Yes.
Right? No, but if we're going to dive into it more, what he's actually saying is do more than you speak. Right? And we've touched this, we've talked about this before. Right? Trying to find the saying where we said that.
They even give the example of Abraham, Avinu.
Right, Avemor me'at sarbe. That's true, but we also see this, in a few instances. If you remember, we said about Al tarbe sicha im isha, which was one that we discussed at the beginning. There specifically, it was about speaking in length with women, but also later, as you said, emor me'at v'aseh arbe, which, if I remember correctly, is yes, Shammai, just 2 weeks ago. Okay, said exactly that. Emor me'at v'aseh arbe. All right, so this is a common theme within the tradition that we're being passed on through Masechet Avot. But I think what's even more emphasized in the saying of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel is
Action, study and action.
exactly is even more so the importance of action, and maybe he's even emphasizing more than Shammai the harm that excessive talk can do. Okay, now let's look at what the Talmud says about this. Okay, so we're given a discussion that was held between Rabbi Tarfon, who we're going to discuss again right soon, in Pesach's Megillah, not Megillah, in the Agada. We're told about Rabbi Tarfon. Okay, so Rabbi Tarfon and the others were once reclining in the upper story of Nitz's house in Lod. Okay, so they were sitting in a house in Lod, and they brought up the question: is study greater or is action greater? What is more important? To learn in theory or to do in practice?
Doing practice. Yeah.
In practice, you
yeah,
say.
Action is greater.
How can you do practice if you don't learn?
If you, But you can learn by practicing.
How? What?
Yes, you can study while practicing.
Mm.
But if you study without practicing, that's nothing.
So you bring up two valid points. You're saying what you're saying is there's no purpose in learning if you're not going to act on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay,
Exactly.
but on the other hand, how are you going to act correctly if you don't learn? So that still leaves us with the question: which is greater? Okay, so Rabbi Tarfon answered and said, action is greater. Rabbi Akiva answered and said, study is greater. Okay, until they got to the final conclusion, which was they all answered and said, study is greater, for it leads to action. Okay, and I think what is important to see here is not that the study is greater, it's a study that leads to action that is greater. All right, so you have to have both. You can't have one without the other.
Okay.
Okay, if you're just studying, then it's
Yeah.
all theoretical,
Exactly.
right? And then if it's all theoretical, it means nothing, especially if stuff we're talking about. But um, it's that leads to action that is that is that is of the greatest importance. Okay, the Rambam in his commentary for the Mishnah brings a little bit more of an explanation on this, and he says as follows: For a person, for when a person learns and understands matters but does not perform them, he is worse than the one who did not learn at all. For study is not the goal in itself, but rather the means to reach upright deeds. Okay? So the Rambam is emphasizing this as well, that what's the most important?
Study then action. Study that leads to
To
action.
do the right deeds. How are you going to do the right deeds? Study well. All right? And according to the Rambam, and we might see why in the next source, but the worst thing you can do is study and not act on it. Why is that?
It will evaporate.
Will evaporate.
Yeah, you study a book, you don't follow its dictates, then you keep more or less you forget.
So you're saying if you don't put it in practice, it's you'll
a lot of
forget
it,
it, and
yeah.
it's like you never learned.
It's like you never learned.
Okay.
And you wasted valuable time.
Yeah. Okay. I like those answers, but I'll say another something more. All right. When you, all right, I'll ask it this way: would you punish a 2-year-old for not clearing his plate from the table when he's done eating?
No, that
No.
is the time for
Okay.
teaching. Yeah.
But would you punish a 10-year-old for not clearing?
Yes,
Why?
because he's old enough, he has seen you die doing it, and you have already told him. So it's
Meaning he's already established enough time. He
Yeah.
had enough time to
to
learn.
know how these things
Okay.
are done.
And more than that, all right? When he's 10 years old, you already know
Yes.
that he knows to do so,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And therefore, you have a higher expectation of him.
Yeah, definitely.
And
yes.
that's why I think the Rambam says that the person who learns and doesn't act is worse, right? Because the person who doesn't know, hey, what can you do? He doesn't know,
Yeah.
right?
I
Complete ignorance.
I tend to think in a way, nothing ever gets lost.
You lose.
Somewhere in your life, these things start coming back. Everything, I tend to think everything you plan, somehow it affects you much, even if it's not now. Again, it disturbs your conscience. Once you plan something, definitely it leaves a mark.
I agree, but I think more so the action leaves a much higher mark and is a key and crucial part of learning.
Yeah.
Okay, because I can teach you. I can take my 5-year-old son and I can teach him in theory how to drive, right? Listen, it's really not that difficult, right? All you have to do is press the right pedal at the right time, steer the steering wheel in the right direction, and it's not that different than driving a bike. But it is very different than riding a bike, right? And to prove that, you don't need a license to ride a bike. You do need a license to drive a car. Why is that? To prove not only that you know how to do it, but also that in action, okay, your actions are following this thing you know, because it's a little more complicated than just the seder, okay, just the knowledge and the understanding of the proper way to do it. Okay, so that's regarding the Rambam saying of why the one is worse, the one that knows and learns and understands and does not perform is worse than the one who doesn't, who hasn't learned. Okay, now let's dive into the saying that I've found nothing better to the body than silence. Okay, all right. How does one affect the other? Okay, I mean it's a bit of an absurd saying. It's like there's nothing better for your body than silence. That's what Rabban Shimon is saying. How so? Okay, how does one link to the other? Okay, and the Midrash Shmuel, who we've discussed before, okay, says as follows. He said, "For the body, it is good," meaning to say that silence is a remedy for the physical body. For most illnesses that come upon a person results from excessive speech, anger, and strictness. When one remains silent, his body is at rest and tranquil. Okay? Meaning, he brings an explanation to why is Rabban Shimon saying, I didn't find good for the body more than silence.
Yeah,
I found nothing better for the body than silence. Okay?
He's just discouraging people talking like a bird. It's always pa, 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 pa. We only talk when it's necessary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, he's saying,
Keep quiet.
well, you also have to remember the saying about the 10 kabim of speech. I mean, there were 10, we'll say 10 units of speech that came down to the world. Okay, there's a whole, I don't think it's a mission, I think it's a Braita saying about the 10 different, it gives a whole list about, beauty, and then says Jerusalem has taken 9 and the rest of the world has taken 1. Okay, and regarding to speech, it says that women claimed 9 units and men claimed 1.
Exactly that.
Okay. So, I don't think, it's true also that women do speak, they speak more, but I'm also saying, that's part of their nature. Now, it doesn't say do not speak. All right? Or he's saying that silence is good for your body. Obviously, that's to a certain extent. Just like every remedy, it has to be within the right measurements. Okay? So I think even then, if you feel that you have to speak up, speak up. But what he's mostly talking about is excessive speech. And how is that? How does excessive speech link into harming your body? So, first of all, he's saying that really when you're speaking, your body's not your body's not resting, and we know that to be true. Okay, when someone's speaking, obviously his pulse is a little higher, right? It takes a lot of physical effort, like your body is working harder in order to speak. Okay, that's the first thing. But more than that, if you speak excessively, um, you can easily get to anger and strictness. Okay, and I want us to look also at the Chovat al-Vavot. Um,
But
he
this,
explains this.
yes,
He explains
yes,
this very, very nicely.
yeah.
Whoever speaks excessively will inevitably sin with his tongue, whether through evil speech, lashon hara, falsehood, flattery, or neglecting Torah's study. Silence is the best defense for guarding the soul. Okay, meaning, all right. He's saying
Yeah,
if you speak too much,
definitely you will make a mistake.
you'll make a mistake.
That is true.
Yeah, you'll hurt people.
Okay.
You will talk.
He's saying
false.
there's one of four outcomes if you're speaking inevitably. One, you'll get to evil speech, meaning you'll gossip. All right,
Yeah.
and it really is hard to speak a lot without getting to that place where
Letting out of
you're
hand.
yeah. All right, falsehood. All right, so you'll end up lying. Flattery, but not flattery in like in like a good and constructive way, but flattery meaning the
Mockery.
not mockery as much as doing it out of like personal interest. Okay, you'll flatter someone just in order to gain something from him. Okay, and let's say you didn't get to these three. All right, you're a big tzaddik and you really didn't get to these three stuff where it really is hard when you're speaking a lot not to get right, because that's human nature at the end of the day. Is we'll remember something and I have to tell you, and you won't believe what he is so and so did. I have to, or you want to exaggerate in order to make, and then you'll end up telling a lie just because of that. And let's say you didn't do that. What's definitely one of the outcomes if you haven't gotten to one of these three bad things?
Neglecting Torah.
Neglecting Torah study. All right, there's something better you can be doing with your time than just talking so much.
I thought if you don't talk, you get sick. Yeah, I'm hearing. You get sick. Now, what is what?
Even like this statement, for most illness,
Yes.
it come upon a person, it
Yes.
come from speech. It's
And I thought
very,
if you don't
very
talk-
extreme.
When you don't talk, when you get sick, yeah, I'm hearing.
Oh,
you
because
talk.
there are people actually for who keep things in themselves and are not speaking up, and that's really detrimental.
Right.
Then that
So
one,
that's
go for a
why.
doctor.
That's why I think
Yes,
it's
yeah.
it's understand to have it's important um, to have the both together. All right, it's not only obviously we know that a lot of bad things can happen if you don't speak, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't, there's a lot of psychological things that all you have to do is to talk and you'll figure it out. That's true, but I think it's also important to understand what Chovat al is saying. One is how much are you speaking? Okay,
In fact, the
And-
word here is
How do
excessive.
how we speak?
Yeah,
I
excessive.
want
You
to-
know what
No,
excessive
no, no.
is?
Like I go to a doctor. I want to talk
No,
to
for a
you,
doctor,
so
yeah.
I'm angry. I want to talk, and then I'll just go and definitely to go out of hand.
Yeah.
okay, but if I think what he's trying to say is also what is your intent when you're speaking?
Put a
Okay,
message across.
if it's just to
To me,
to relieve whatever is right. Let's give this example that you gave. All right, there's something you have to solve out. All right, and for that you need to speak.
Yeah,
Okay,
that one is
Speak.
understandable.
but once it's solved,
keep on-
stop there.
Yeah. The word is excessive.
Yes, the main word is excessive.
Yeah.
Make
It's not
sure
just
that
talking.
from that place,
Exactly.
okay, where you're
solved
hurt
it.
and
Yeah.
you've solved it,
Yeah.
you stop there and you don't go onward, and then you'll end up harming someone else or yourself. But um, okay, so now let's look into the the last part of this Mishnah. Um, and the study is not the essence, but rather the action. And whoever increases words brings about sin. Okay? And on that, Rabbi Ovadia Bartanura says, and I didn't bring it here, but where do we learn this?
No, this one is confusing.
What?
Where are you?
Oh, I'm saying here. Even regarding words of Torah, they said, a person should not prolong it, speak excessively, but rather be as brief as possible. For anyone who increases words unnecessarily will eventually come to error or idle talk. Now, if you remember, a few weeks ago, we talked about the saying, "Chachamim yizaharu b'divrichem," and we were bringing exactly this point. Okay?
We benefit from Torah.
All right, it's true. You're talking about Torah, okay, and even wise people, okay, chachamim. It's directed at them, that saying of be careful with your words, meaning don't talk excessively, don't exaggerate your sayings, don't overdo it. Why? Because you'll eventually come to error or idle talk. That's the only outcome that can come out, even if you're discussing
Words of Torah.
matters of Torah.
Yeah.
Okay, and where do we learn this from? This is the next thing that the Bartanura says, and I didn't bring here as well. Okay, he brings the example of the first. It's probably the first excessive talk in human history. Eve, in the Garden of Eden. Okay?
Adam was a gentleman.
Right?
He was not even asked. He was a gentleman.
God commanded, do not eat from the
And he
tree of
understood.
knowledge, from the tree of knowledge of good and bad. Right?
He
That was the
understood
command.
Yeah.
Okay? What did Eve say?
Not even approach the tree.
Do not eat, do not touch.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So there, she exaggerated.
That's what
Okay?
we are
And
doing.
if you think about it,
Yeah.
what did she exaggerate about?
Do not touch.
Yeah.
The commands of Hashem.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
The
exactly.
commands of God. That's what she was, you could have said, hey, wait a minute. She was just, setting boundaries but we know, okay, there's a midrash that says that because she said do not touch, the serpent came and he pushed her on the tree and said, hey, you touched and nothing happened.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, this, is a small example of how important it is to be precise with your words, okay? Because if Eve would have said, God said, do not eat, I am trying to stay away and I'm not even touching. All right? What a difference would that make? What a
was
difference
clear.
of understanding. It's like,
Yeah.
even if you did, right, that's my own, that's my own experience, that's my own desire is not to even touch it. But it's not the same as saying, God said not to eat and not to touch. Okay? It's those small little details. And that is another example of even on Divrei Torah, because this is essentially like the command of Hashem. Okay, this is back when humanity only had one command.
Yeah.
But if you exaggerate even there, okay, if you excessive talk even there,
There are problems.
that's where problems arise.
That there is
Exactly.
this concept of putting a fence on the Torah.
Right.
Yes, so this is not actually the commandment, but the rabbis actually forbid, like they put a fence on that commandment. So that
Yes.
people
No. That's exactly what I was trying to say
Yeah.
before. Like, yes, there is a command to put a fence in the Torah, and it
Yes.
is important, right? Just like when you don't want to fall off a cliff, you don't go and stand on the edge.
Yes.
You take a step back. All
You
right.
put a fence.
But that's exactly the point. You say, listen, this is a fence I put up. Okay? It's not the actual command.
Yeah, exactly.
All right?
Differentiator.
Yes, it's a very important differentiation. All right? And I think, that's a lot of things today, definitely in the halachic world, are being discussed, and a lot of times people confuse what's minhagim and what's a step back, as opposed to, wait a minute, um, what's the actual command? And yes, there are times where there's sort of a gray area, but you have to know that gray area has come from that putting up that fence. Okay, now that doesn't mean that the fence is bad, right? Here, to go back to our cliff. All right, so you put up the fence about a meter back. Okay, now let's say your kid threw his ball and it's past the fence. Do you go over the fence? Maybe, probably not, right? Because it's not worth the risk of your life. But now he threw away the car keys. Okay, it's a little bit more. So does that mean everything that's thrown over the fence you don't go for? No, there's stuff, and even when you do it, there's a way to approach it, right? You keep on holding to the fence. You make sure to, even though the fence is there, all right? It doesn't mean there's never a time to climb over the fence. The saying is there's never a time to climb over the fence, but in action, listen, it's with the exception of A, B, C, D, all right? So as a majority rule, yes, you don't climb over the fence. Does that mean you never climb over the fence? No. All right? But the sign shall say, do not climb over the fence.
Yeah.
Right?
Danger, right?
Yes, it's danger. Exactly. It's a danger, all right? It's dangerous to be over the fence, but it doesn't mean you never do it. Okay? And that's exactly the differentiation that you have to make within your words. And if you excessively talk, because of the flow of the conversation and because you want to be, or sometimes you want to just make a point, it's not usually, I'd say, or many times, it's not from an ill intention that you'll be excessive, but you're not thinking down to the last detail exactly, and that's why inevitably when you excessively talk, you'll get to a place where you're missing out on the small details, and I think that is the main thing that Rabban Shimon is talking
what
about.
this strictness means, actually. The strictness.
The strictness.
Yes.
What are you referring to?
Like this one of found nothing better for the body than silence.
Okay.
Yes, at the end, for most illness that come upon a person result from excessive speech, anger, and strictness.
Right. So that's exactly maybe the place. Okay. All right. So let's say, go back to our fence metaphor. You tell your kid, you should never climb over the fence. All right. And then he can go, hey, never? All right. Okay. Let's say this is a little bit of an older child, and he's clever enough to understand never. And he's, for some reason, holding your wallet, and he throws it over the fence, and it falls between the edge of the cliff and the fence. Okay. Now you're in trouble because you just told him you never go over the fence, but you have good reason to go over the fence, and now you're in a sort of a conundrum. So obviously in the metaphor you'd probably do something differently, but there's a place where you'll say, hey, listen, all right, you're gonna fall on these small details if you excessively talk.
Generally, if you exceed this, then this is bound to happen.
Yes, and it is bound to happen, and because you're not, as I said, when you're excessively talking, or when you're talking in general, all right, you don't think of every possible outcome, right? And that's why he's saying, listen, better to be silent. Okay? because then you can also take time to take a deep breath, reflect on what you think and what is the best way to approach a certain situation. You
No,
had a
but this
question?
is true. Everything that's it's written here, it's what that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what life teaches us.
Yes.
So
It's a good
it's
lesson.
it's just emphasizing, which is
Yeah.
good.
Yes, it just shows that
How important it is.
we're talking about things that were written 3,000 years ago and are still very relevant,
Very appropriate.
very relevant to today. Okay, and to finish up, um, even King Solomon has said something of the same nature. Do not rush with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter the words before God. For God is in heaven, and you are upon earth. Therefore, let your words be few. Okay, so even King Solomon, who we know is the wisest of all men, says, "Listen, keep your words few." Okay, that doesn't mean don't talk at all. You have to talk. Sometimes you have to talk, and that is actually, I'd say, you're obligated to talk because that's what differentiates. That's what separates man from animals is that we can articulate our thoughts and we have better ways to express ourselves. So not doing that is also a sin. But as everything in life, right? You have to find the right measurements. Um,
And when you are angry, how do you
I think that is the
you
best
express
time
yourself?
to restrain yourself.
When you're angry.
Yeah, I think that
Restrain
is the
yourself.
best time to go out, have a breeze, go around and relax, then you come.
It's different how
No?
most people, that's just your approach, but most people, when they are angry, they tend actually to get mad, and speak, and talk.
When you talk, and this is when things start happening. You hit somebody, somebody hits you, and it gets out of hand.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But
So-
it's individual. How you train yourself is not
Exactly.
I think for a man, he should step 3 steps back and ask what is happening. And if your head is hot, you go around, cool around, and then you come back. Or send somebody to tell him or her, you have wronged me.
Unfortunately, that person might even follow you wherever you're going, still throwing words.
okay, now I want to bring up a question.
Yeah.
All right. Rabban Shimon here is giving us a little bit of I'd say, a different style of what he's saying, right? Everyone, um, they were saying, their sayings were very, or until now in the Mishnah, is like he said and he used to say, right? That was a style. Rabban Shimon is going a little bit into his personal experience, right? If you look at the first sentence, what he says, all my days I grew up among the sages. Okay? Why do you think, okay? Why do you think he brings in this introduction?
To show you how important it is to live in a certain way.
I think it is important to show where actually what he's trying to say come from, like the sages where the environment where he grew up.
Silence was
Yes,
valued.
exactly.
Holiness. The holiness. He grew up among the sages and the how to be in a very holy environment.
Okay, I think this saying comes to emphasize, okay, that even among those who have a lot to say, right, and they're wise people, their sayings are true. It's not like, um, um, they're uttering nonsense. No, they're discussing serious matters, even among those. He says, listen, from them
Yeah.
I learned that it's important to be silent.
Mm.
Okay? And maybe he's also hinting to that there's a saying, Siyag la shtika. Okay? Meaning that if you want to be wise, the first thing you have to do, or the fence, or the boundary you need to put, is to be able to be silent. Okay? I've heard once another metaphor that, right? A bottle, when you empty it out, you can't refill it. You can't be filling it up at the same time. Okay? Meaning that if you're speaking and you're busy talking, it's harder to, or it's impossible to also be receiving at the same time, and that's why the silence is key in order to become wise. And I think that is another thing that Rabban Shimon is telling us. Okay, so I think on that note we'll end. And what?
Have we done this one of the don't be in a rush?
Yeah, we did. We did.
So I have a question on that, please.
I'll just say goodbye to all those who are at home, and that's it. Yes.